Look at God. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Danita, for sharing your story. I thank God for bringing peace into Danita's life through him. I'd now like to introduce Kelly Hollis, who is on the KGM speaker team. And it has been so great getting to know Kelly, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her story. Kelly?
I have been given 6 minutes to give my testimony. 6 minutes. That seems impossibly hard, but I'm going to try to leave you with 2 things that have really helped me in my walk with the Lord. I grew up a Catholic, which means, for me anyways, I knew of the Lord, but I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. And in all honesty, he was an obligation on Sunday mornings before the bigger event of going to Dunkin' Donuts after church. I got married when I was 25, and it proved harder than I thought it was going to be to start a family. I had 3 miscarriages before my son was born. And in the baby registry, he was named Keith Hollis. But when he came out, we switched his name to Matthew, which means gift from God. And he was all that. Fast forward 10 years, we were all growing in our faith. My kids were going to Christian school, and I was asked to teach a Bible study, which, I didn't grow up with the Bible. So, it's proof that God uses all kinds of people to do his bidding. The Bible study ended up being Tara Furman's Intimacy with God, which I think she's selling it out on her table, and I think it's called Knowing God Now. But if you're new to the faith, it is a great foundational Bible study. I highly recommend it. But I co-led it with someone, and at the end of the study, we found out Tara was looking for people to join her team, the Knowing God Ministries team. And the girl I co-led it with said, hey, do you mind coming over and praying with me? Maybe we might end up joining this team. So I would drop my kids off at school, and I'd go over to her house, and we would pray. And this lasted like 2 weeks. And I finally said, have you heard a word from the Lord? Because, I'm a busy mom. I can't do this every day. And she said, actually, I have heard a word from the Lord. And I don't think he's calling me to go to Knowing God Ministries, but I think he's calling you to go to Knowing God Ministries. And I was like, well, I'm not hearing that. Nonetheless, I went and talked to Tara. And Tara gave me some really good advice that day. She said, listen, I think it's great that Stacy wants you to join Knowing God Ministries, but I need you to hear a word from the Lord. And if he gives you the thumbs up, we'd love to have you on our team. So, I had just taught this study called Intimacy with God, but I had never really felt like God had spoken to me, like I had gotten a personal word from God. So I went home that night, and I said, Lord, do you want me to work for KGM? And that's exactly how I said it, and I didn't hear anything. Nothing came out of the sky. So I went to my devotional that day, and I'm like, Lord, you need to speak because Tara is pressuring me. And this is what it said. Be willing to go out on a limb with me. If that is where I am leading you, it is the safest place to be. Your desire to live a risk-free life is a form of unbelief. That's a yes. That's a big fat yes. So the first point is, God speaks. When you spend time with the Lord, he will speak to you. It's not your pastor, it's not your husband, it's not your friend. It's a relationship that he wants to have personally with you. That was a game changer for me, complete game changer. And now, I talk to him all the time. I worked for Knowing God Ministries for 5 years, and they were good years. I was growing in my faith, and my husband was working in missions, and my oldest son was getting us up at 6 o'clock in the morning so that he could work the coffee bar at our church. But in August of 2015, That boy that got us up at 5 o'clock in the morning, that one that we named Matthew, which means gift from God, it's still hard. He took his own life. There was no sign. There was no note. There was no indication that this was going to happen. We had just gotten home from a whitewater rafting trip. The tsunami that followed that event took me out. First and foremost, I was a mom. I had an amazing support group. I have a family that is just incredible, and they surrounded me. To this day, they have never let me fall. And I have friends, many of them involved in this ministry, that would not let me fall. But I was so in the dark, I couldn't get out. And I knew there was only one way I was going to get out of the darkness, and that was to go back to the advice that I had gotten 5 years earlier. I needed to hear from the Lord. Jeremiah 29:23 says, "You will find me when you seek me with all your heart." Let me tell you, and this is hard, when you only have a mustard seed of faith and very little hope for the future, He will take His right hand and He will lift you up out of that pit. I gave Him all my anger, all my bitterness. I was angry at Him. Why did you allow this to happen? I don't have time to tell you the signs that He gave me to let me know that He had my boy, and my boy was safe. But He also had me, and He had my husband, and He had my Brian, Matthew's brother. Point number 2, when the storms come, He is the only one that can heal your heart. So if you don't have a relationship with Him, you need to start. And this ministry is a good place to start. If you don't know me, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who would describe me as depressed and dark. But it's because I've spent a lot of time with the Lord, and we have wrestled. Listen, this was not easy. We have wrestled, and if I'm honest, there's still days I wrestle with Him. But I know time is short, and laughter is so much better than tears. And I have a God who provided a path for me to see my boy again. And He's also helped me finish this testimony in 6-ish minutes. And I promise you this, He is so much better than Dunkin' Donuts.